And we are live. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the iPhoneography podcast. We are going to talk about why we photograph. And we're also going to look at some recent photos. And that includes a recent photo from a member of the iPhoneography podcast Facebook group, one that we've chosen to talk about as well. So stay tuned for that. All this coming up. Alrighty. You know what? We're a little late, I know. Normally the podcast would come out this morning as we record this. It is Wednesday, July 3rd, but we normally record Monday nights. Monday night was Canada Day. It was Canada Day, and I had intended to shoot the fireworks in town here, but the mosquitoes had other plans. So I said the heck with it. I wasn't going to stand out there and get eaten alive just for 20 minutes of fireworks. And let's see. And then last night we had fully intended to come on here, but I wasn't feeling very good, so we put it off for another day. And here we are. And I am welcomed by my good friend and co-host Dave Podner. Hello, David.
Hey, Greg, always glad to be on, and
And I
hopefully,
can't hear you.
oh, okay. So let me. Oh, okay, can you hear me now?
No, I totally lost your audio. So, by the way, folks, we are on StreamYard, as you can tell, and this is the first time we've used it, first time we've gone live with it. And Scott Baker, I see you are in the chat. Oh, it says that he can hear Dave. Okay, you know what? I'll bet you it has something to do with, let's see here. Probably has something to do with audio hijack. Can they say something, Dave?
Okay.
Okay,
Can we
now
try
I
that
can
again?
hear you.
Excellent.
I can hear
excellent.
you now.
Excellent.
Oh man, the joys of self-production.
That is true, and new technology that we don't test out until we actually go live.
Yeah. So, Scott, does everything sound good? You're our technician, I guess you could say. Yeah, ID 10T errors. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. So anyway, so we thought we'd talk about something that I think, but if memory serves me, when I was on Shane Mawson's live stream one time, we talked about this same thing. But Dave and I have never really talked about it on this show, and that is, why do we photograph? Like, why did we practice photography? Um, I mean, there are many reasons, and everybody will have their own reasons. Some of them could be, I got some notes here, so I'm going to kind of jot or look at them here, but it could be to capture, preserve memories, express creativity through images, you document unique perspectives and moments, different things like that. But we can parse the information from wherever until we're blue in the face. But what we really want to know is, why do we photograph? So, Dave, what do you think it is that makes you want to take pictures?
I think for me, it's sharing experience, because there are certain things I'd like to, things either happen or something I view or something I see that I just go, wow, that is neat. I'm going to get really technical here. Neat. Or, boy, it'd be great if, other people could see this, because this is so nice looking or unusual or something on that nature. And having a phone on you, which for the majority of people these days is always stuck to your kind of stuck to your body at all times. So you're always have a camera close to yourself. So you don't have to worry about, this amazing thing happened and I wish I could show you, but we just can't see it right now, which kind of kills the whole sharing experience. So
Yeah.
I mean, there are I'm thinking back like and some of this is going to include running because when I run, generally I'm running by myself outside of races, or as Ruth says, you're not racing, you're running because you're not running to win. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
yeah, I realize I'm not running to win. I'm not delusional. But there are times like running in the neighborhood, we had a thunderstorm that looked like it was about to come in, and there was this just amazing striking cloud formation. And it was a harsh line of on one side, completely blue. And then just like it looked fake. Just a silvery border and then dark clouds. And it's like, wow, that's amazing. I've never seen that in my life before. I'll probably never see it again. I got to take a picture of that and then run as quickly as I can to get out of the storm. But, or a couple times when I've done trail runs, you're in the trail. Literally, you're because of the way the trail goes, you get disorientated in terms of, am I facing, it's like on a road, when you're going on a road or just walking along a road, you know where you are pretty much. If you're in a trail, you're like, okay, which direction am I going? Other than knowing you're going uphill or downhill, you really have no idea where you're pointed. Because a lot of times you're covered up by trees, so you don't even know where the sun is. And just saying, very few people will either be able to, because the trail races are never easy. Even just walking the trails, you have to be in pretty decent shape and be pretty mobile. And um, just like I want to take a picture or do a video because this is something, at least for me and for a lot of people, would consider different and unique and something that I just want to share an experience.
Yeah.
So sharing, and
Yeah.
also I would say, if you've noticed a lot of stuff for me in the last, I don't know, month and a half, it's, oh my god, she's so cute
Yeah.
when it comes to
Yeah.
pictures of Daisy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like a new member of the family, right?
Oh yeah,
So
it is. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, how else can anybody share, like, how else can anybody uh be into that, take part, I guess, in that experience other than by getting a photo from somebody who's actually there. Like, it could be a sporting event or a
Hmm.
family thing where, somebody from 1,000 miles away couldn't make it. That's putting them in the moment, especially with a live photo, that puts them in the
Hmm.
moment, when they get, something shared with them, like a picture or a video. Um, for me, it's, I live here. I live here in Owen Sound, Ontario, Canada, and probably 99% of the people that I associate with online and whatnot don't live here. They're not here. And uh, screen mirror. Scott says screen mirror where the chat goes. I'm not sure what he means by that, but
Hmm.
um, uh, anyway, so if I'm here and no one else is, and I want to share what I'm seeing with other people, that's the only way to do it is to take a picture and um, share it with them. So
Hmm.
um, it's there's such thing as oversharing too. Some people overshare. They say, okay, I'm getting another text from Scott.
Oh, okay.
Photo not going through screen mirror. Oh, he sent me a photo. Okay, hold on. And I'm not going to edit this out because it's going to be a long night as it is tonight putting these up. Um, well, he found a workaround for getting the chat, so that's good.
Yep. And this should be a reminder that we're looking at the chat on YouTube. So if you see this shared after the fact, unfortunately, if it's not live, of course, you can't watch it, but we are
Yeah.
striving to have this live in the future. So if you're listening to this, normally it is Monday, every other Monday at 9 p.m. And yes, even though today is July 3rd and
Yep.
Independence Day in the US is tomorrow, people are setting off fireworks now, of course. So you may hear the
Yeah.
occasional boom in the background, depending on how well the filtering works.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
well,
Oh, yeah.
I can't hear anything. So,
Nope. Just one just went off. I just heard it, and
oh yeah,
Cat wasn't too spoofed. She's still looking out the window, so she
people
isn't
just
too
can't
scared.
wait another day.
Oh no, no.
But
Especially when you see fireworks in the grocery store, Sam's Club, you name it.
oh yeah, yeah,
$150 worth of fireworks, major fireworks in a box, and that's not
yeah,
even quote unquote the good stuff,
yeah,
because we don't sell
yeah.
that in Pennsylvania, but Ohio does.
Oh yeah.
They sell the stuff that
Well,
can actually start a war, but that's Ohio.
yeah. Well, well, getting back to
Yeah,
uh,
back to photography.
the sharing here. So like I said, I live here. I have, there's things around here, this area that I could
Mhm.
experience, and you know, there's a lot of really cool and interesting and nice things around here to photograph. Um, like okay, I've got waterfalls and stuff like that. Well, Shane doesn't have waterfalls in Australia. Not at least not where he is. He's in
Right.
a very flat, wide open part. He says if you stand
Mhm.
on a tuna can, you can see for miles. And so when I share an image of a nice waterfall or a river or something like that,
Mhm.
um, that I've taken a long exposure of or whatever, hopefully he really enjoys that. Look at Scott Baker. Scott Baker lives right at the ocean on the east coast of Canada. His sunsets are amazing. Um, can I get sunsets here? Sure, but uh, he's got um, some landscape stuff, or some rock formations and things like that that I don't have here, or at least not. If I wanted to drive maybe an hour or whatever, I could probably get to something like that, but it wouldn't be the ocean.
Right.
Andy Green, his stuff's amazing. He's got over in England there that the shoreline is, oh, there's massive rocks and things like
Mhm.
that. There's so many different places that have so many different things, um, that I'm so grateful that people can share them through, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, whatever, or even just through like an iMessage or whatever. It's just it's a wonderful time to be alive. So uh, but I mean, there are a lot of other reasons that I photograph. So like another one is to um, keep the memories, and the nice thing about the iPhone is that it creates these memories, and it
Mm.
puts together like a video slideshow type of thing with images, and if there's video there, it'll put a video in it, and it'll make a 1 minute short video to
Mhm.
music that I could share with fans. So um like what would be another reason that you would photograph?
One way, and I'll go. This is somewhat kind of going into editing than straight photography, but I consider it all one thing. Just doing something creative, because
Yeah.
I don't have drawing ability, um, or painting ability, or you know, um, building stuff with my hands, stuff like that. I'm not good at that. And could I get good at it? Maybe I did. Maybe I just don't have the hand-eye coordination per se. But when I get to the more creative edits, some of the weirder ones that may or may not work, but some of the ones which are just kind of, it's just a good release for creativity.
Yeah.
It's a stress relief. It's literally I took a photo. I'm just going to sit down and get lost in the editing process. Kind
Yeah.
of try to zone out everything else that's going on and just try to edit this photo and try here and move here and see if something else is, see if, oh, that isn't working. Let me try down this path. Oh, it didn't work. I'll try another path. Or, as Bob Ross said, happy little accidents.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know and so it's a little bit of therapy, a little creativity release. And sometimes it happens on photos that I plan ahead and, like, okay, I'm going to a location or I'm going to be in a particular place and I want to take this photo and then I edit it. When sometimes it's, I took a photo and it wasn't necessarily a great photo, composition wasn't great, lighting wasn't great for whatever reason. um Sometimes things just come against you, but then you go and say, oh, when I edit it, it turned into something different. It turns, and even if no one else likes it, which it's always nice to have other people like your stuff, but even if no one likes it, it's still that nice release that you're giving.
Yeah.
And that's something I
Yeah.
really enjoy too.
I agree with that 100% because as as a photographer, which is what we are artists, and artists create stuff. We have this, this desire to create, a photo or a piece of art of some sort. Like some people use like an iPad to make a digital work of art. Um, but there's times if I haven't been out taking pictures in quite a while, there's times when I just get so antsy and I just got to go out and I got to shoot something. Um, Case in point was just a few days ago when I wanted to go to one of my favorite places, and one of the pictures is in our recent photos that we'll cover later. But um, I just wanted to go out and take a picture of something. So I go to this place and I was there for probably an hour and a half. But and the editing is also part of that. I go out, I take these pictures, I get home, and even if it's a picture I take on a walk with the dog, I can't wait to get home and start editing it. I don't have a massive editing um, regimen, but it's just nice to make something out of that image that's more to what I like, more to my liking. As nice as a scene as it could be, you always want to give it your own little flair, right?
Hmm.
You put your own touch on it. At least that's how I look at it. So, I mean, to your point about just creating something, yeah, that's a really, really big reason for me as to why I do this stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
and I would
now,
say even, I would say, oh, sorry, Greg.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
I would say that's even going to exploring new apps for editing. And
Oh yeah,
sometimes not even in the Lightroom Photomator dark room where you're just taking a photo and trying to correct the issues that all cameras have, not just iPhone cameras, but no
yeah,
camera can exactly get what's actually in your eye because everyone's
yeah,
eyes are
yeah,
different. You know, everyone has different light and dark sensitivity and everything else. So you want to get it where it's, sometimes you want to get exactly what you saw. And sometimes you
yeah.
want to get it what you saw in your mind and what you were imagining, and the emotion that came out of the scene, not a
Hmm.
literal look. Basically impressionist versus realist in terms of painting. But
Yeah.
even some of the like I said, it's exploring the apps. Like someone suggested RNI for some of
Hmm.
the edits from the show like a month or so ago, and I download it and I use it occasionally. But then I saw an ad inside of RNI for an app called RNI Arrow, which does simulations of infrared photos.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So it's like, no, I'll give it a try. Experiment, try something different, and
Yep.
see why would I want to use this app versus another app? Why would I need, or should I even use it? And am I getting into to get all Marie Kondo? And it's an old reference, but Is it
Yeah.
something giving me joy? Am I enjoying
Yeah.
using this app? Or is it like, it's an app. It's okay. It's not okay. I'm just going to get rid of it. I'm never going to use it. It'll automatically take it off. Or it's one of those apps like, I like the way it does things for me in terms of editing and everything else. So therefore, I'm going to keep it and use it.
Yeah. And to that point about the apps, there's so many different ones that, you can find new channels of your creativity, in a new app that you have never used
Mm-hmm.
before. Like I'm not a real big user of apps like Visionist or Watercolor or things like that, but I just love once in a while opening the app with a certain image and seeing what it does.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of gives me a good feeling to see what
Mm-hmm.
comes out of it. Um, like okay, so and Dale Otherington is in the house. He's
Yep.
he's a another one of our Aussie friends, who, by the way, spoiler alert, folks, will be on the next show. Uh, so he says, you're creating photos, not making photos, and that is true. You're creating a photograph.
Mm-hmm.
You're not, or he says creating photos, not taking photos. That's it, not making. It's take. He says not taking,
Yeah.
and he says no one complains about the size of a brush that the painter uses. Another true statement. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you can't look at a painting and say, oh, he used this brush or that brush, or he used a brush that was too big or too small, because we don't know unless you're, I mean, an art critic that
Right.
does
Right.
know. But I don't know if anybody can really know. Like, but anyway, so all these different apps that are available, and that's the wonderful thing about using the iPhone with this stuff is the choices we have are almost endless. And it's so sad that it's not that way for Android. Um, uh, you know, yes, they have a lot of different choices, but there's just not as many, and that's just a fact. Um, for them as there is for the iPhone users. I think it's just because it's so much easier to develop for iOS than it is for Android. We've talked about this before, but um, hey, but it's just there's so many different channels and avenues that you can go down,
Mm-hmm.
with this stuff, and um, so like another reason to photograph for me would be to uh, do research or something. Like when I was doing the book that I did on macro, it gave me a good reason to go and shoot macro photos. Um, and there's even a chapter in there about research. It's a small chapter, but it's a chapter about research and how you can use the camera, especially like a macro with a lens and whatnot, as a tool for doing research. That's just another uh, avenue to go down. You know, uh, you've captured images of visiting family members in the past. So there's
Right.
another good reason.
Yeah. I mean, and this may be a bit on the morbid side, unfortunately, but when Ruth's mom passed, we were able to get together a really nice slideshow to show at the viewing.
Hmm.
And most of those images were taken with the iPhone.
Yeah, yeah,
And the slideshow was created on an iPhone. So, it basically just not only taking the photos as they happen, but a way to remember them later on.
yeah. And the
Like,
same goes on
yeah,
on a lighter side. The same goes with when you went to see your dad in
exactly.
Palm
Yeah.
Springs.
Yeah.
That's an opportunity that you don't get every day,
Very
and
true.
you've got all these memories from that
Hmm.
trip. And I mean, can you imagine if you weren't into photography?
True. Yeah.
You would not.
Especially some of the photos where, like when we went up on the tram,
Yeah,
because the last time I visited him, admittedly 20 years ago, the
yeah,
tram was down for repair.
yeah,
So, the fact of next time I go out there, which I don't know when, but next time I go out there, the tram could be down again. There could be inclement weather. Probably not, but there could be bad weather.
Yeah. Palm
They
Springs inclement weather? Nah.
okay. Once in a while they get some rain. Once in a while,
Yeah.
like five
Yeah.
times a year. But or it could just be, even though it doesn't seem like just like in Canada, nothing shuts down for snow. They don't really
Well, it
shut
has to be
down for
pretty
heat.
bad first. It
That's
does have to
what I'm
be
saying.
pretty
Yeah,
bad.
yeah. But same thing out there with their heat. It's
Yeah.
if we would have, like, a couple weeks ago, I forget when, but we had the heat dome, and it was mid 90s and humid.
Yeah.
And they said, okay, don't do anything outside between like 9 a.m. and like 7 p.m. And even outside of that, limit it because it's hot, it's dangerous, it's everything else. And that was a really unusual experience. And for him, the high today was 112 degrees.
Yeah. That's pretty
Eh,
warm.
Yeah, and
It's a dry
currently
heat though out there, is it not? It's
it
not
it
humid.
it, it no, it is exceptionally dry.
Yeah.
Um, Now it's around 11 degrees above normal. So the wind's making it feel cooler. So it only feels like 107 instead of
Yeah.
108. Humidity 16%.
Yeah.
So but that has its own issues where, even if you don't feel hot, you'll dry out quickly out there and you'll
Yeah.
burn quickly. But,
Yeah.
the fact
But
that it's
you
112, it doesn't shut anything down,
right. Yeah.
you know.
And lucky for you, I don't know, it was what, mid-90s when you were out there roughly, if I remember correctly?
Yeah, it was mid 90s. We peaked a couple times around 100.
Yeah. So you had opportunities to see and do all kinds of stuff, because
Hmm.
obviously they didn't shut things down. And
That's
because
a
you
normal
are
day. That's a normal day for them.
yeah, yeah. So and because you have an interest in photography like that,
Hmm.
you took lots of pictures,
Oh yeah.
and you have those memories.
Hmm.
Um,
And like
so,
you said, live photos are an amazing thing.
oh yeah,
And
yeah.
the
When I
fact
think of
that,
live when I think of live photos, I always think of what Mike James told me about a live photo he had with his mother before she passed. He can go back on that photo. It's a 3-second clip where he can hear her voice, and he can
hmm
take that as long as he can preserve that image. Um, he can take that with him, for the rest of his life probably.
hmm
And luckily, it was a live photo.
right,
Again, I don't do enough live photos. Especially when I'm around my grandson, I should start doing live photos more. But I do enough. I do a fair bit of video
well,
when
yeah,
I'm with him, but
yeah,
which is pretty good too. But you take a lot of live photos. In fact,
yeah. I
just
have
about
it
every
on by
picture you
default.
take is live photos.
Yeah, I have
Yeah,
it on by default, and mainly because there is a advantage when you're taking anything that may or may not be moving, of
yeah,
being able to say, oh, that moved, I'll shift the photo half a second earlier or half a second later, and
yeah,
then you get that perfect pose, or a
yep,
better pose, I should say, or
yeah,
something else going on. And I don't really think, unlike, I know when live photos first came out, people were saying how the live photos were worse quality. I really don't notice a difference. At least for me, it's really hard to notice when it's a live photo and not a live photo anymore.
Well, I think it gives you like a full resolution
Right.
image,
Yeah.
so it should be fine. Anything that
Yeah.
you've sent me for the our recent photo segment, if it's a live photo, it looks great.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
And
it, it
honestly,
doesn't look bad at all.
maybe if I blew it up to like an 8 by 10, or like larger, it would make a difference. I don't know. I don't print out. The only thing I generally print out are little snapshot size.
Yeah, yeah.
Anything more than that, I really don't print out, and that turns out great. Those little, 3 by 5, 4 by 6s. I don't know what the metric equivalent is of that.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. When I talk photo sizes, I always talk inches as well. Um, so, well, there's plenty of good reasons to photograph, and
Mhm.
I think we've covered pretty much why we do it. I can't think of any other reason offhand as to why we would do it, but uh, I mean,
Well, I would
it's
say
something that we.
now one thing that I think we can say outside of your book, one reason we don't, but some people do, is it's their job.
Oh yeah, yeah,
I'm thinking like Mark Sadowski. His second gig is wedding photography.
yeah, yeah.
He doesn't really take photos with his iPhone. He uses his Fujifilm
Hmm.
cameras, which I understand. There are certain things, limitations of the iPhone, where if I was a guest at a wedding and the picture turned out a certain way, no big deal. If you're the photographer being paid thousands of dollars and it turned out a certain way because you're using an iPhone instead of something that handles maybe zoom better or low light better, the
Yeah,
bride and groom may be a little miffed.
yeah, yeah. That's right. Yeah, and Shane Moston, he used to put on
Yeah.
photography workshops. Like
Mm-hmm.
he does the odd wedding, but he used to put on workshops for people too. And I mean, so there's another professional um, angle for taking images. Um, so all right, well, I think we pretty much covered. This was
I
a
would say
kind of
the
an
high points. Yeah.
impromptu subject choice. But I'm sure, and like I said before, everybody has their own reasons for doing it. And if you're watching this video and you've made it this far, go ahead and leave a comment and let us know why you photograph. We'd be interested to know. Um, so, all right, well, we will move on now to our recent photos. And as I mentioned earlier, we have one image that we're going to look at from uh, a member of the Facebook group who put a hashtag on my recent photos. Now we're gonna change it up for the next time. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna put a post in the group about this whole thing again. If you want to have your image talked about in our recent photos, um, you just comment on the post. Don't make a new post. Like I said the first time, I think that was a bad choice on my part. I think what we'll do is I'll put the post on the Facebook group. I'll pin it to the top as a featured post and just put a comment in there with your image if you want us to talk about it. And understand that in order to show it here on the YouTube channel, I have to download it. But what I do is once I've shown it, and it goes into the podcast app where you can see your images while we're talking about them. After that, they're deleted, they're gone. I do not keep anybody's photos. So and even Dave's, I think I've deleted most of his ones that he sends me. But um, so when you see the post, comment, and when you do that, it's be nice to get a little information about the image. Let us know how you took it. Let us know
Mm-hmm.
what app you used to edit it and all that stuff. You don't have to go into great detail, but it would be nice just to see you know what your mindset was when you did the edit and when you took the shot and things like that. So
Yeah.
you don't
I
have
would
to say
even
where it is.
Yeah, I would even say if you wanted to know, let us know what phone you used,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it's
absolutely.
always curious to see someone who's you see this photo and it turned out amazing and it was taken with an iPhone 10 or
Yeah.
it was
Oh yeah,
taken
for
with an
sure.
iPhone 8 or 7. It's like, here's an old 7S I had that isn't even supported by Apple anymore, but
Yeah.
I'm still using it. I didn't turn it in, so I'm still using it as a phone or an iPod Touch. And I took
Yep.
this photo with an old phone. And because so many people are still hung up on, oh, I need to take an iPhone, I need the latest phone or 2 years at the latest. Other than that, I can't take good pictures. No, it helps in certain situations, but not always.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and if you used a different app other than the native camera app, put that on there too.
Hmm.
Let us know what you're using. Um, So what we're going to do is we're going to go through ours. I've got them ready to go here, and I'm going to we'll go through mine first, Dave, because that's just the order I've got them ready to
Okay.
go,
Yep.
and then we'll go through yours. So we got three each, and then we're going to do the the members photo at the end. So
Mhm.
I will share my screen. If I could just do this quickly here, and there we go. Okay, there is my first image.
Ah, okay.
Um, it's a daylily. Now,
Hmm.
again, folks, on in the audio and on the podcast app that you're listening on, hopefully, if it can play enhanced podcast, look on your screen and you'll see it. Um, I was just out walking the dog, and I took my reflex G series macro long range macro lens with me,
Mm.
just because it's easy to carry in my pocket, and I saw this daylily, and I thought, you know what, just the way the sun's hitting it, I thought, like, I got to capture it. So the dog was very patient with me, and I was able to snag this picture of it. And I'm trying to think of how I did the edit. I think it might have been in darkroom.
Mm.
Um,
Okay.
and what I had to actually desaturate just the orange because it was just a little too strong. I think it looks a little more natural the way it is.
Hmm.
But and macro photography tip that you will see in my book: focus on the stamen. Those who are watching on YouTube, you can see my cursor move around. These little things in the middle here. This is the stamen of the flower. Pretty much every flower has these things, and I always think that that should be the focal point of a macro image. Um, wherever else, where whatever else falls into that focal plane is a bonus. Like over here on this petal, this edge
Hmm.
of the petal falls in on it. Some of the texture of the petal falls in on it. But make sure you get the stamen in sharp focus. So it's hard sometimes to get them all sharp. You likely won't get them all sharp because these macro lenses have such a very shallow depth of field
Right.
that you're only going to get maybe, well, if you're lucky, you'll get all of it. Depends on the flower too, I guess, and how they're situated. But at least try
Let's
to
say
get
that, yeah,
the
this flower has a good amount of spread on it also.
yeah, yeah.
So,
And it's good to get uh, the one closest to you of all the stamen in the image. The one closest to you should be the one. It's kind of like when you're taking a picture of a person, like a portrait, and if their head's on a tilt, or not a tilt, but a on an angle,
okay.
the eye closest to the camera should be the one to get the focus. So, um, but yeah, that's a
Hmm.
daylily.
Yeah, and that is something I found out is when there's oranges and reds, it's so easy for that just to over dominate.
Yeah,
Just,
yeah,
without even editing, it just kind of boosted up. And I think it's partially because that's just, if you just not looking at a photo in detail, but just kind of scrolling through quickly, people like that because it gets your attention.
yeah,
But
yeah,
if you stop and look at it, it's kind of like, oh, that got my attention, but it's overpowering everything else. So, Lightroom Mobile, Photomator also have abilities to saturate and desaturate individual colors too.
yeah, yeah, and that's exactly what I did here too.
Yeah.
Now, another thing that you can do when you're taking the photo is if you use a camera app that has a histogram, and if that histogram can show the three different color channels, the red, green, and the blue, chances are the red might be off the edge on the
Mhm.
overexposure side. So bring your exposure down until that red stays within in the sides of the histogram, and because you could always brighten it up later.
Mhm.
You can always uh, brighten the image without, and try not to clip the red. It's a bit of an editing trick, I guess, or is something that you have to get used to doing. But that's another way to make
Mhm.
sure that you don't blow out the detail of the red or the orange or whatever in the flower. So that's my first one. My second one. So I mentioned earlier that I went to one of my favorite places to shoot, and this is down at a river, um, downstream from a local waterfall that is probably the most popular tourist attraction in the area.
Mm.
But I like going to this place here because there's usually nobody else there. At least not staying at that spot, taking pictures or whatever. A few people had walked through.
Right.
There's a up behind me where I was standing, there's a steel bridge that goes across the river. So while I was there for about the hour and a half I was there was probably 3 or 4 times people walked through. Um, but like I said, they never stayed. But what I was doing here was I was trying out. So Reflex sent me a telephoto and a wide angle G series lens, and I got the case to put these lenses on. So now I'm really enjoying these things. Uh, this was with I believe, with the telephoto on the main camera. Uh,
Mm.
Now, one of the advantages of putting a lens on the camera like that is you can still get the uh, 48 megapixels out of the frame. But as soon as you start doing long exposure, you're going back to 12. It's just the way it
Right.
works. But I was also using a neutral density filter and the circular polarizer.
Mm.
So I was able to really control this. This is what you call taking a photographic approach to iPhone photography. I put the filters on so that I can really get a grip of or get a handle on the shutter speed that I wanted to use to control how the water looked.
Hmm.
Um, and as far as editing goes, I edited this one. I believe it was in Lightroom Mobile, and it came out pretty good. I
Hmm.
think before I even started doing the edit, but I do like to make sure that things like the water's not blown out too much or whatever. I mean, that's I always set the exposure with the zebra, those zebra things,
Hmm.
zebra stripes.
Okay. Yeah.
And okay, so in this image here, right at where the water's coming over the rock, right in that point there would be the brightest part of the image. And I always make sure that I set my ISO to the lowest point and my shutter speed. I set it to I bring it. Let's see, I bring it up until the zebra stripes show, or I set it. Let's see, I shutter speed is so stupid. The shutter speed is a value of 1 over something, and
Right.
I always slow it down, I guess you could say, 1
Okay.
over 1, 1 over 2, 1 over 3, or whatever, and I always bring it up, I guess you could say, a little faster each time until those little zebra stripes disappear,
Mm. Okay.
and then I take the shot because then I know I'm not gonna lose detail in that brightest point. It doesn't matter about the blacks. They can be brought back, but you cannot
Hmm.
bring back any lost detail in the whites.
Right.
So, and then I think this is going to be the cover image of my next book that I'm working on.
Mm.
I'm gonna yeah, I'm not even gonna say how long it's gonna take because I don't want to be pressured into a
No.
deadline. And
Well,
that's the
not
nice
only
thing about
that, given
self-publishing.
and given what happened with the last book, like I said, even
Yeah,
self-publishing things happen. So yeah,
yeah.
that makes perfect
So,
sense.
but it's gonna be, I guess you could say a series where the first one's iPhone photography focusing on macro. This one's gonna be iPhone photography focusing on long exposure.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
I'm just gonna try to show as many different ways you can do long exposure with the iPhone, and this is one of them, and this is probably my favorite one.
Hmm.
Whether it's a waterfall or a river or a stream, but moving water like this. And there's so
Yeah.
many different ways you can show this. So, um, I, at this point, so far, this is the working cover. and and luckily the water wasn't too high. I was able to stand right out in the middle, basically in the middle of if the river was completely rushing, I wouldn't be able to go out to where I was. But the water was,
Okay.
it wasn't flowing that much that I couldn't get out kind of in the middle of the river
Right.
and get some closer shots of some of the detail. So that is number two. Number three, this was on Canada Day, um, in a town just a little bit north of here. We went for a drive just to see what was
Hmm.
going on, and this one park area that we go to was just packed with people. And
Looks like it was
this
great
was,
weather too, so that makes sense.
yeah, it was a beautiful day. It was a little windy, but it was a beautiful day. And so it's hard to tell what's happening here, but what's happening is somebody had a soap suds kind of machine, kind of like a gun or something like that, like a great big thing that just set out a stream of soap suds,
Oh.
and there was people getting plastered with them. A lot of bunch of kids standing there in their bathing suits, and they
Mm.
were just getting covered with soap bubbles and stuff. And I thought it was quite comical. You can see some on the ground here in the
Yeah.
foreground. There's
Yeah.
there's some soap suds laying there, and it was just really piling up in amongst these people. Um, it was just kind of a fun thing to take a few pictures of, and I thought, well, I'm going to use Reheld.
Hmm.
I used the 5X on my iPhone to get closer without getting bubbles all over me. And people had their kids there, their little kids in the strollers and things like that. But it was just a really cool thing, and with all the bubbles, they were moving so quick that it just looks like smoke almost.
Hmm.
But it wasn't smoke, it was just bubbles flying everywhere,
Mm.
like really fine foamy soap suds.
Hmm.
So
Oh,
it
that
was just a
sounds
lot of
fun.
fun. And all I did with this was I just saturated it just a little bit just to bring out the reds of some of the people's clothes, because Canada
Sure.
Day, a lot of people were wearing uh, red
Right.
shirts
Right.
and
Which
stuff
makes
like that.
sense.
So
Which makes sense. Yeah.
yeah. Uh, so just gonna get to the chat here real quick before we go to
Sure.
yours. Yvonne Camper Rio Vista says, I enjoy photography so much more since using my smartphone because I can see the results instantly and retake it if necessary. They're accepted everywhere and people aren't intimidated. She's got a good point.
Hmm.
Um, and that goes for any phone, not just the iPhone, but that goes for any phone. Uh, you know, it's becoming such a big thing, such a popular thing and widely accepted thing to use your phone for photography. I mean, professionals are using them too.
Yes.
Um, that goes without saying, um, but yeah, it's so much fun, and
Hmm.
again, that instant gratification is big sometimes too. So, okay, so getting back to our recent photos, we're gonna go with this one for your
Okay.
first one.
Yep. So this was taken in my backyard. This is the top of the hill, and the tree that's neighbor's tree, but it kind of hangs over my bushes up there. Has a bit of I don't know what kind of flowers, but it just has a bit of a flower. It just has a bit of flowers on it sprinkled over, and I did use the RNI, not the arrow, but just the regular RNI app,
Mhm.
to add some filters to kind of emphasize the purple, the reddishness of the flowers, so it would stand out a little bit more and kind of desaturate the greens, because the greens kind of can overpower a lot.
Yeah.
So, but just doing that, I just wanted to have those flowers just kind of out there. And you can see in the little barn shed that the person has on the right, you can see that reddish is kind of the filter going a little wild on shadow.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But I don't think it distracts it too much. But yeah, it's just like I said, just a way to get a little creative with the editing. And because when I looked at the photo without editing, you couldn't really see the flowers that well. They were kind of hidden. So I wanted a way to, and the normal apps I were using, like Lightroom or Photomate or even the built-in Photos app, just wasn't cutting it for having that pop, if you will, for the flowers that
Yeah.
were out there.
Yeah. And once again, you have managed to make a summer image look like autumn. It does, it has that autumn
I
vibe
don't
to
know.
it, you
Maybe
know?
I don't know. Maybe I'm just sick of the heat. I don't know. Well, I'll say
Yeah,
this:
yeah.
a lot of the R&I filters, which is it's newer for me, so I'm using a little bit much. Um, they tend to have a lot of the darker, kind of more autumn look to it, not
Yeah,
so bright and vibrant.
yeah. Yeah, well, it's cool. It does, really bring out those flowers or those blossoms,
Hmm.
and, I would say mission accomplished with that filter for sure. Your second one.
Yep, and this is also another one I did with the R&I filter. This is an older church, and actually, on my way to have my phone fixed, or really because my charging port and the pegs as part of the charging port were severely bent. I got a new phone from Apple. Thank
Oh,
you,
yeah,
Apple
yeah.
Care. Thank you, Apple Care Plus.
Yes.
Uh, but this was me stopped at a stoplight,
Oh, okay.
and I just liked the look of the church, and kind of took a photo from the driver's seat while the red light was there, so it was safe.
Mhm.
I use touch retouch actually on the bottom right where the hedges are in dark shadow. There was a car there.
Oh,
So
okay.
I got rid of the car, and I'm trying to remember if there were any, and I'm actually looking at my phone. There was, I don't believe, let me hold on, let me check one more time here. I'm trying, yep. There were power lines kind of going across the image, and there was a telephone pole on the right that I got rid of.
Oh, okay.
So I got rid of that with touch retouch and did a little changing with the um, skeuomorphism of it.
Oh, yeah.
So I made it. I basically straightened up the photo. It had a little bit of a tilt because of how close I was and the height of the building. Even though it's only, you can see it's like a four-story tower there. It still was kind of
Mhm.
leaning away. So I was able to use the
Yeah.
built-in cropping thing and just kind of straighten up the image a little bit there. And the filter kind of, again, like you said, it gave it more of a maybe not autumn look, maybe like midsummer.
Yeah,
Because the
yeah.
grass was definitely, it was regular green grass, but here it looked kind of, it added to the worn out midsummer look to it when grass,
Yeah.
kind of just died when it gets hot and lack of rain.
But it also looks a little like an aged photo.
Yeah, is that, yeah, that's the other thing. I would, now I did do another edit where I kind of went full blown aged, and it just didn't turn out.
Yeah.
Trying to make it look like a postcard from like the 1920s or 1930s.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Or like an old color, a very faded color postcard from back in the day.
Yeah.
It just didn't work out. So, but no, I think that again, I was just kind of going for that particular look and getting more of a rougher image, and more starkness to the red brick itself too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's a nice cool effect to it.
Hmm.
Well, I shouldn't say cool. It looks really warm.
But
It's a nice warm effect. But I like the detail in it and everything else, and um, it's just a cool church.
hmm.
A nice architectural shot. Um, so your third one.
Yep. And this was, this is, you want to talk about long exposure. This is a long exposure shot also taken with reheld.
Okay.
So the train was passing by, and I just wanted to get a shot of, it's a coal train just kind of passing by, but it was
Hmm.
long enough, and this is a kind of a flat area that as the train keeps passing by with the long photo, not only do the cars that were going in front of it kind of fade away since they're they're barely there for the shot, but the train, it kind of blurs out the train. So you figure this is multiple train cars as it's going by. So you have
Yeah.
that kind of repeating image on the side of the train. If you zoom into the train itself, you can see the CR and then the number underneath. And that's
Yeah.
kind of repeating as the train, as it's taking the multiple shots and the train's moving along.
Yep.
And I did a lot of editing to give it that really weathered look, with the sky looking almost like it's an old photo where they had trouble with the chemicals for the sky.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you can see it goes from blue to green to white to, I mean, even yellow in there. So it's like the processing was off. And to get the kind of the multiple layered look there for the frames, that was done in both Snapseed to give it one frame, and then Camera Plus to give it another frame on top of it.
Oh,
So those
okay.
are kind of multiple frames on top of each other
Oh,
to
that's
get
cool.
that look. And it almost reminds me of like of the, not even the Polaroids that necessarily, but the old ones where you actually had to tear off. They actually, when it came out, there was still a cover on it that you had to tear off after it was
Yeah.
processed. Not the ones
Yeah.
from,
Yeah.
let's say, the 80s where you just took it and you shook it when it was out, but it came
Yeah.
out and then there was this little paper you had to tear off, and it had almost like an extra framing on top of just the white sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. The good old days, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I really like the treatment that you've given this. It just does it looks just like you said, with it had difficulty, processing and
Hmm.
whatnot, and um, the little specks along the side and all that stuff. They really add to it.
Hmm.
It just looks like a good old dated photo of a train that was going by, and yeah, just kind of cool. How fast was the train going?
I think they generally go 20, 30 miles an hour.
Oh yeah,
There's a
okay,
crossing not too far away,
right,
so they can't really go that fast. And also,
yeah,
you can tell it's literally right on their side of a major road.
yeah,
There's
that's true.
is on the other side of the train tracks. And there's not really a barrier between, I mean, there's the guide rail,
Hmm.
but there's really not much of a barrier between this and the railroad tracks on this side. Admittedly, there's no sidewalk over there, but
Yeah,
there's not much of a barrier.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so they really, even though, and remember, folks, trains, if they want to stop, from the minute they say we're going to stop, we'll take around a mile or 1.6 kilometers for the space units people to actually stop when they decide they want to stop.
Hmm.
So that's even going slow. It can be an issue when it goes through a heavily populated area or heavily traveled area.
Yeah, yeah. It's not something you want to mess with, getting in the way
No.
of a train. That's for sure. Okay, well, now we will go with the members image.
Mm-hmm.
I just got to find it here. Okay, there it is. And I'll get that up on the screen. There we go. And this is Mark Johnson's really cool waterfall with a whole pile of different cascades that, you know, it's hard to say how high this is, but I would say, it's probably a good couple 100 feet from top to
Mm-hmm.
bottom. Uh, but it's just really a wonderful cascade. So we don't know too much about this. This is why we're asking, when you submit your images for this feature, give us a little information about it. You don't have to say where it is. I guess that's privacy thing, but you can if you want. Maybe the state or whatever, just to or province or wherever you are. Kind of an idea of even what country it's from. But you know, I'm gonna guess that it's probably a reheld shot, um, just by looking at it, or it could be slow shutter cam. It's hard to say. Again, another reason to tell us what app you used to take the image,
Hmm.
and then what app you did the edit in would be nice to know too. So, but Dave and I kind of agreed that this was probably the one that we're going to talk about, and uh, I think a little bit of a crop off the right hand side might have improved it just a little bit. To keep the aspect ratio, maybe just take a little off the top as well, out of the sky, or maybe a little off the bottom instead, just to get that
Hmm.
there's a rock right at the very bottom that if you were to crop that off, uh, it would just kind of give it a little more aesthetically pleasing composition. But other than that, I mean, it's a great image, nice,
Hmm.
like, nicely saturated. The sky is nice and blue. The grass is a nice green, and uh, just a great image. And I don't blame you for wanting to choose this one, Dave.
Yeah, yeah. This was I really, really like this image, and it was clear. Um, the water just having that wonderful. Admittedly, it's a waterfall, but it's sometimes really hard to get that misting look while
Mhm.
keeping everything else clear. And Mark did a great job on this. And I kind of like the pool at the bottom acting as kind of a pool of water, I should say, not the swimming pool, but
Yeah, yeah,
the part down the bottom where it acts as an anchor. So you have all this action, 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 multiple directions. It's going one direction and another, then another direction, but then just going down to this calm down below.
yeah,
And then you have,
yeah,
like I said, there's a light blue tinge to the water in the waterfall, but everything else is green. So that's wonderful.
yeah, yeah. It's another example of you know being able to take a picture of a long exposure like this in what appears to be bright sunlight.
Mhm.
Um, you just couldn't do it with a traditional camera without filters and maybe multiple exposures and all this other stuff. Um, Dale Lotherington in the chat says it is
Go
something
for it.
something. I'm
Thank
not
you.
even going to go. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that.
Okay, I'm
But
gonna
it's a
try. I'm gonna
waterfall.
try.
Okay, okay, go ahead.
Okay, Twindyfossen.
That's pretty good, I think.
Yeah,
It's a waterfall in Voss municipality in Vestland County, Norway, according to a Google image
yeah.
search. Um, so that's pretty cool. All the way from Norway. And Mark, if you live there, great. If you were visiting, that's cool. Um, but thank you for submitting that image, and thank you to everybody who submitted images. Uh, we only have so much time to talk about these, and we're just going to pick one for each episode going forward. But you know please submit them to the comment section of the post that I put these in. It'll always be a featured post, so you'll always be able to find it. And again, it never hurts to put a little bit of information there about
Mhm.
the image, the camera you use, the app you use to take it, or whatever, just so we can have a better idea of what to say about it, and all that stuff. So, um, all right, well, I think we've got ourselves a show, and you know what?
Mhm.
We managed to keep it down to just over an hour, which is good. I kind of like
Yep.
that. Um,
Well,
so.
that
And
definitely will make it easier for you for the editing.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah, I'm going to be up for a little bit tonight, getting it ready to put out for tomorrow morning. And again, folks, sorry it's late. It's normally out Wednesday morning here in my time zone. And uh, so wherever you are, it's a day late for sure. And apologies for that, but if you're in the U.S. Tomorrow, or when this comes out, it'll be coming out on Independence Day. So enjoy your holiday, and yeah, give the old salute, and stay safe around any fireworks and all that
Yeah.
stuff. And just enjoy the day, and I guess Dave. Again, these all these images will be on the Facebook group, or on the Facebook page. Sorry, I got to get those two
Hmm.
straight. And I'll put a post up about the episode with the images, so that if you don't get a chance to see them, they'll be on the Facebook page. And again, for those who might be looking for the website, it's not going to be updated any longer because I ran out of space on it, and that's why I made the Facebook page. So go to Facebook and look for the iPhoneography podcast. That's the name of the webpage, and you could even use the old URL iPhoneography.ca. It should land you there, hopefully, and you can have a look at the images from the page. So uh, I guess that's it. I guess we will see everybody on the next
Yeah.
one. Thanks, Dave.
Oh, welcome, Greg, and have a good one, everyone.
Good night.